Hey guys, it's Sylvia from Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And in today's video, we are going to do a couple thrift flips using the March edition of Sonnet's Garden Blooms Maker's Box. So, to start, let's see what's in the box. First, we have the Marshland Guardian by Connie, the painted photographer. And then we also have the rice paper Secrets of the Guardian by Connie, the painted photographer. We then get Spring Tartan, a recycled decoupage paper, and we get Old English Countryside, a recycled decoupage paper. And then for the paints, we are going to get DIY, Cake Batter and Water Lily, Fusion Mineral Paint, Acadia Pear and Damask, and for Sweet Pickins, we got Completely Coral. And for our little extra Sutton, we got this cute bunny with our thank you card. So let's get creating. First, I started off with this extra wood paddle from a previous workshop project I had. I believe you can get them at Michael's. I had bought them in bulk, and I have one or two left over. So I painted the center of the paddle white for some decoupage paper, and then I painted the paddle with the water lily. Then I was thinking I kind of want a ombre effect, so I grabbed DIY Bohemian Blue and I painted the top part of the handle and blended it into the center. And now you can kind of see my gray hairs are coming in. Sorry about that. Then I was thinking it was kind of bright, and I grabbed my DIY Dark and Decrepit, and I gave it a layer. I just went right over the paint and then wiped it down into the blue until I had the whole paddle covered. Just kind of darkened it up a little. I apologize, I didn't film applying the decoupage paper. I used the Marshland Guardian, ripped it around the edges, and then used Dark and Decrepit to blend it into the paddle. Next, I grabbed some cake batter, and using my roller, I applied it to some letter stamps, which I had picked up at a thrift store. And I stamped Mississippi down the handle, and I took my hand sander to rough it up a little, and then I gave the whole project a coat of Big Top by DIY to seal the project. I used a light brown leather cording to hang the paddle. For project 2, I'm using a rusty old metal scraper I picked up at probably the Habitat for Humanity for maybe $1. I soaked it overnight to remove some of the rust and grunginess and wiped it all off with a baby wipe. You can kind of see the icky. Next, I took some Vaseline or petroleum jelly, and I painted the metal pieces of the handle so that while painting the handle, if I got paint on it, it wouldn't cover up my metal. I like the metal. I then used Big Top by DIY to coat and seal the metal scraper to help prevent any leftover rust from bleeding through the paint, and also helps the paint adhere to the metal. I then grabbed some green DIY paint and I painted the handle, and I tried going around my rivets in the handle, but I wasn't too worried because I knew I had the Vaseline. So I just gave both sides of the handle a good coating of the green paint. Next, I just grabbed some plain old white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, and I painted the blade on both sides. Once the paint was dry, I grabbed the petroleum jelly or the Vaseline again, and using vertical strokes, I just randomly applied Vaseline all around the handle. Using cake batter by DIY, I covered up the handle of the paint. I think it took 2 coats of the cake batter to cover up the green. Using my hand sander, I just roughly went over the handle in vertical motion, taking off parts of the yellow paint that it's not adhering well because of the Vaseline, and it gives it a nice chippy, older look. Then I do apologize. I didn't film again applying the decoupage paper. I just used the Secrets of the Gardens, the small one of Connie's rice paper, and using liquid patina, I applied it to the blade, and then I used my hand sander again to remove the excess paper. And again, my apologies. And when I was done, I sealed it with the liquid patina so the whole project had the same varnish and the DIY paint was sealed. I used some twine, wrapped it through the hole of the handle of the scraper so that it could be hung as home decor. So for project 3, I used an 8x8 wood frame or a canvas panel. I keep plenty of these on hand in varying sizes since they're very easy projects to complete and they usually sell pretty well. So I'm just going to paint the whole wood panel with white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum. Next, I'm using an IOD crackle stamp, and I'm just going to ink up the stamp, really get it nice and juicy, and then I'm going to apply it to the center of the board and just randomly apply it. There's no rhyme or reason. And when stamping, I just try to apply the stamp, press down for the ink to go into the paint, and then lift the stamp straight up. However, when I'm using the crackle stamps or the texture stamps, I'm usually not that good at lifting the stamp straight up. For the frame of the stamp, I had mixed up the Completely Coral by Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, and I let it sit at least 10 minutes. And I just painted the whole outside frame, and I did 2 coats, and I did the front and back. And what I don't show is I did apply heat to the paint so that it would hopefully give me some of that nice crackling. When using the milk paint, it's difficult to know what kind of effects you're going to get, but I really wanted that crackle, so I did apply heat. After the paint had dried, I grabbed my hand sander again, and I just went around the edges of my frame. Now, if you're not familiar with decoupage and with napkins, napkins usually come in thin layers. So you might have a 2, 3, or 4 ply. I just put a little of that liquid patina or whatever decoupage medium you're using on my fingers, and I press down on the corner of the napkin, and it helps peel that napkin right apart. I'm just going to use my scissors because I really not finicky how the edges are for this project. And I'm just going to cut a bunny out one of the squares. Using liquid patina by DIY, I started to apply a thin coat on the side of the board. I placed my napkin down over it, grabbed more liquid patina and was able to finish the placement pretty easily of the napkin. And I had very minimal wrinkles, so I did not have to use an iron afterwards to help smooth out the wrinkles. The liquid patina did a great job. And I apologize, my gray hairs got in the way again. I'm going to use a makeup brush with liquid patina, old and gray. And I'm just randomly rubbing around the edges with the old and gray. Next, I grabbed DIY white wax, and I just covered my whole project, dabbing and rubbing the wax all over the wood and also on the edges of the old and gray liquid patina. I used a paper towel to remove all the excess wax, and I covered the whole project on the sides and the back using the same method, and it sealed the Sweet Pickins milk paint, and the project is complete. My final project was actually inspired by a messaging conversation I had with a long-term friend of mine, Chris, regarding something she had seen with a washboard. So I thought, I wonder if I could decoupage the paper on, and I had just gotten my box. So I have taken the white paint and placed it over the metal part of the washboard. I'm then just going to use the Damask, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, by the Fusion Mineral Paint to paint the interior rectangle on top of the old washboard. Next, I'm grabbing the Acadia pear, and I'm just going to paint the rest of the washboard with the Fusion Mineral Paint. And it was so nice with the paint. The Fusion Mineral Paint, I only needed one coat, and it seals itself, so it makes for a really nice paint. I then stamped out Fountain City, Wisconsin with its established year. Since I live on a river town, hence the Mississippi in the paddle, and this old washboard will go up for sale in my shop. So I'm kind of targeting my customer base. So I'm just using the stamp, and I'm applying Fountain City, Wisconsin, established in 1839. Next, I'm going to use liquid patina to apply Royce's decoupage paper. And one of the big mistakes I made was I didn't measure enough, thinking I had to press the paper into the dents of the washboard. So I did learn my lesson there. Next time I'm going to overcut my paper. However, it did go on fairly easy. However, while pressing it in, I did get some rips, and you'll see the holes shortly where the paper did rip, but I slept on it overnight and had a fix for it. So I'm just applying the decoupage paper over the section of the liquid patina, and using my fingers, I'm just going to start pressing it in. And then I'm going to make my way up the washboard in sections. It's just, for me, it's easier to apply working in sections. And then I'm just apply the liquid patina, and I'm pressing in with my fingers. And with the dents, I also used the paintbrush with more liquid patina when I felt like it wasn't adhering, because sometimes it felt like it was bubbling, and it could be that's where I used too much liquid patina and got some of my tears. You can now see the cracks in the decoupage paper as I made my way up. However, I grabbed a 5x7 wood plank while it was drying, and I gave the sides a cover with the Damask Fusion Mineral Paint. Using the Damask Mineral Paint and also the Water Lily by DIY, I just used my brush and I filled in those white tears in the canvas with the paint. I then felt like it needed a little something something. So I pulled out my rub and buff in gold, and using my fingers, I applied it to the ribs on the top part of the ribs, and you can see the gold as I'm rubbing it right on gently. I then used the gold rub and buff, and I ran around all the edges of the wood also, just to give it kind of that accent. Next, I used a liquid patina on the top part of my wood plank. And I just gave it a pretty generous coat, but not too thick. And I just covered the plank with the liquid patina. I used a 5x7 of a historical picture of the city, and I applied it right on top of the wooden plank. Using the gold rub and buff, I just used my fingers to gently apply some of it on the edges of the photo. Using my go-to of Type Bond Thick and Quick, I gave a generous coating to the back of the wood plank, and I was able to adhere it right to the center of the washboard. And I'm hoping that you enjoyed these projects. And if you're not getting Sonnet's Makers Box, head on over to that Facebook page and get on our waiting list. Please let me know which project you like the best, or whatever comments. Even if they're negative, it helps me learn and grow, so I do appreciate them. And if you are inspired, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.